It is May 4th, 2021. It's a little after 7 p.m. And in just a little bit, we're going to introduce our presenter for tonight, Sheryl DeWitt, the Executive Director of Redeeming Life Outreach Ministries. My name is Reverend Jeff Duncan. I'm the Director of Mission and Ministry at Lutherans for Life, and as always, the host of our first and third Tuesday night sessions for Life Live. Thank you for coming and joining with us tonight. Just so that you do know, these sessions are recorded. You can put your picture out on the web if you'd like, or you can go dark, either way. We do appreciate your chat questions to be placed into the chat section so that at the end of tonight's session, I can go through and moderate those questions and hopefully take them in somewhat of an order. But if you do have questions along the way, as our presenter shows you slides, please put those into the chat section. Also, there is an archive of all of our past presentations. It's on our webpage, lutheransforlife.org. That's Lutherans for FOR spelled out life.org. And if you put a /for-life-live-archive and a /, you'll find it. If you don't want to go through all that trouble, just go up into the upper right corner of the search box and say For Life Live Archive, hit enter, and it'll come to a page that you can click onto. It will be there, trust me, if you look for it. Future For Life Live events, again, first and third Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Central. And they're also on the calendar page on our website. The next one, May 18th, the third Tuesday in May. What's it going to be? A party, a circus, a rompus room? Well, to tell you the truth, I just don't know either, but I hope it will be fun. And with all that said, here's the plan. Jerry Lewis made a reputation for himself hosting telethons for the MDA. There was singing, there was dancing, there was heartfelt pleas to support a worthy cause. There were shenanigans, and I finally got to work that word into a presentation. There was Jerry and his voices. There were puppies. Who doesn't want to give money when they see puppies, right? Well, on May 18th, there will be none of this, or will there? I don't know, and that's the whole point. All I do know is that Lutherans for Life is embarking on something that we've never done before as an organization, and we're still Lutheran, and to be able to say we've never done something like this before is kind of unusual. We've never done a fundraiser for Lutherans for Life. We do appeals, we do sponsorships, we take donations. We ask you to support us through donations, to join our organization as a member of Lutherans for Life. But we've never organized an actual fundraiser. And this year we're breaking that mold and doing something both new and bold, and something that we also hope is going to be fun. It's called our first annual virtual walk for life. It's called Step Up for Life. Let me put that on the screen so that you can see what this looks like. Is everybody seeing my computer screen with our Lutherans for Life page for Step Up for Life? You see it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's on the home page. If you go to the very home page of Lutherans for Life, I'm going to click on it right now, and hopefully it's my internet's not going to be too slow and it'll pull it up. I'll show you how to get to this page. It's very simple. I say that and now it's very slow. All right. So on the home page, when you open up the page, it gives you this option, what can you do or what can I do? If you just X out of that, our home page has this purple button, Step Up for Life registration. All you have to do right there is hit that, and it'll take you back to this page that I already had up. Our Walk for Life, Step Up for Life 2021 with the hashtag You Are Indispensable, which is from our 2021 Life Sunday theme. And this is all the information that you need to know. Starting May 8th, come back to this page and you can register. It's a $25 fee. You'll be asked to set personal fitness goals, and you have 8 weeks. And then you can also form a team to help do this. From this page, you can also order a t-shirt. Here's the t-shirt design, a couple of shoes, the soles of the shoe that say Step Up for Life on there. You Are Indispensable hashtag included in there, and that will be on the front. And you can get these shipping included for either $12 or $14. You can click this order here button and it'll take you to the order form. And you can do any kinds of activities, but if you don't want to walk or roll, you can also just send contributions to Lutherans for Life. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play this short video so that you can see what this is all about.
Lutherans for Life invites you to be a gospel-motivated voice for life in a brand new way. Join us from May 8th through July 5th as we step up for life during our first annual Walk for Life. How can you step up for life too? As you record your individual or team activities, walking, jogging, swimming, or rolling, to name just a few, you'll not only be raising awareness for life, but also funds to support LFL's life-affirming work. Not a runner, walker, biker, or hiker? No problem. You can still step up for life by becoming a sponsor. Beginning May 8th, visit either lutheransforlife.org or yforlife.org to sign up. Thanks in advance for helping LFL cross its $30,000 finish line and for empowering even more gospel-motivated voices for life.
Okay, so that gives you a flavor and a taste of what our Step Up for Life is. It gave you the sense that we have a goal of $30,000, an ambitious goal, but it's not a very large goal when it comes to a lot of organizations right now. And this is just something to help us. We do a lot of different things all over the map in For Life areas, and certainly our budget is much greater than that. But this is just something that we've decided to try to help, especially with some of the downturn in the pandemic season. At the bottom of this page, you'll find things that you can put into your church bulletins. We have a bulletin insert. We have a poster that you can post, another life poster in purple, and we have a fitness conversion chart. All of these things are downloadable. You can pop on any of those and you can start putting those into your bulletins today. So I hope and I pray that you will take advantage of this opportunity that we are presenting for you, and that you'll start signing up, join teams, cheer on your efforts, and that you'll join me on the 18th as I host a telethon of sorts, and we'll see how many teams we can get signed up that night and what new information, and who knows, we might even have some fun and entertainment. And if somebody can bring a puppy, I'll certainly let them be put on there so that we can raise more money as well. You know, as we begin thinking about tonight and the presentation, I want us to reflect a little bit on how so many young girls come to be in need of pregnancy resources. There's a story in the Bible, Genesis chapter 38. It involves one of the sons of Israel, Judah. You remember that he had a son by the name of who died and did not have children with his wife Tamar. And as was the custom, Judah's son Tamar was other son was asked to perform the duties with Tamar and impregnate her, but Onan refused. And that's a whole different story of sorrow and potential sin. But all of this led to ask Tamar to remain a widow until Judah's younger son, Shelah, grew up to fulfill the duties. But Shelah did grow up, and Tamar saw that he was not being given as pledged by Judah. So she took matters into her own hands. She dressed as a temple prostitute, met Judah on the road during travels, and became pregnant. All this while taking from Judah a pledge for his payment. And I'll let the Bible continue with the rest of this story from Genesis 38. About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law has been immoral. Moreover, she is pregnant by immorality." And Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned." And as she was being brought out, she sent word to her father-in-law, "By the man to whom these belong, I am pregnant." And she said, "Please identify whose these are, the signet and the cord and the staff." Then Judah identified them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he did not know her again." When the time of her labor came, there were twins in her womb. And when she was in labor, one put out a hand, and the midwife took it and tied a scarlet thread on his hand, saying, "This one came out first." But as he drew back his hand, behold, his brother came out. And she said, "What a breach you have made for yourself." Therefore, his name was called Perez. Afterward, his brother came out with the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah. It's a complicated story, isn't it? But God made something of the mess that Judah and Tamar made of marriage, of fidelity, of promise, and of children born out of wedlock. As we know from reading Matthew, Perez is in the line of the Messiah, our Lord Jesus Christ. Now, I don't want to push this too far, but every unwed mother and expectant mother has a story of background of how she's gotten to this place, and she deserves to be heard, and she deserves to be cared for along with her unborn child. And so do married and abused mothers, scared mothers, financially challenged, handicapped mothers. Every mother who faces a difficult pregnancy due to relationship struggles or sinful activities, due to problems, maybe even problems that are out of their control. They all deserve our love, our care, our compassion, and most especially our help. Sometimes that means physical hands-on help. Sometimes that means financial support. At all times, it means our prayer. Let me quote from St. Paul in Romans 12. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. For as in one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function, so we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members one of another. Having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. If prophecy in proportion to our faith, if service in our serving, the one who teaches in his teaching, the one who exhorts in his exhortation, the one who contributes in generosity, and the one who leads with zeal, the one who does acts of mercy with cheerfulness. My prayer is that this evening's presentation from Sheryl DeWitt might open your eyes to where you might fit in, serving the needs of pregnant women where you are, and that you might find ability and aid in both word and sacrament to share your gifts, whatever they may be, with those who are in need. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, grant your mercy and grace to your people in their many and various callings. Give them patience and strengthen them in their Christian vocations of witness to the world and of service to their neighbor. In Christ's precious name, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Tonight we're gathered together to be in conversation with the Executive Director of Redeeming Life Outreach Ministries, Sheryl DeWitt. She's going to share a little bit of the history of how and why she got started in the maternity home ministry, the mission that they have, why they do what they do, and why they see it as important, how they minister, the programs and services that they provide, the impact, stories of residents, and how Christ's hope is impacting their life. Their desire to grow and reach through expansion into all LCMS districts, where they're already starting with the Northern Illinois district, and engagement, how they support women in crisis pregnancies. From the Redeeming Life Outreach Ministries website, they say, motivated by God's grace, Redeeming Life Outreach Ministries seeks to reach out with the love of Christ to support single, expectant, and postpartum mothers. We do this by providing a safe and stable home. Women have opportunities for growth in their relationship with their Savior, as well as career, parenting, and life skill education. We are a pro-life ministry. A little about Sheryl. She is the co-founder and executive director of Redeeming Life Outreach, which operates this residential maternity home and transitional living home for single, pregnant, and postpartum women in crisis. With a professional background in the insurance and TPA industry, Founding Redeeming Life was more about her life passion than her career development. Along with her husband, Reverend Everett DeWitt, Cheryl dreamed for over 25 years of opening a home for women in crisis pregnancies who were at risk of aborting their unborn child. And that reality, that dream became a reality in November of 2013 with the opening of the Southward House, a comprehensive program and residential option for women who want to choose life for their child but lack the resources necessary to do that. And in August 2018, Redeeming Life celebrated the opening of phase 2 of ministry, a transitional home, offering graduates of the maternity home program continued stabilization and residential services. Cheryl is passionate about offering positive life-saving options to at-risk women and children. Her and her husband have been married 38 years, and together they've raised 3 children. And like myself, in addition to finding great joy in serving women and babies of Redeeming Life, Cheryl's dedicated and a doting grandmother of 3. I'm not a grandmother, I'm a grandfather of 2, but I recognize that that desire to be a doting and dedicated grandparent. And what a blessing that is. Cheryl, welcome. And we're so glad that you're with us tonight. Introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll get started with your presentation.
Great. Thank you, Pastor. It's really wonderful to be here and be a part of this amazing group of people. I do know many of you, and it's wonderful to see your faces and to be here tonight. So thank you for allowing me to be here. I would like to give special thanks to Pastor Meisner for starting the dialogue between the NID and Redeeming Life, and also to Lori Trenchy, who's been working tirelessly to help us get this project off the ground. So, and to everyone else too, that's been supportive. You know, Chris stays there and keeps us informed, waiting for news, excited about everything. So it's just great to be here. And I can't tell you how amazing it is to work with the NID. I know not all of you are in the Northern Illinois district, but the level of passion that the people that I've been working with for life, for mommies and babies, to improve their life and to make it better has just been overwhelming. A lot different than it feels here in Florida, in a very different way. You guys in many ways have a more active pro-life community. So I'm looking forward to learning from you too, and how we can do more all over the country to help people understand and value the life that God gives us. So thanks for having me. I'm going to go through a little presentation to kind of talk about our history. So whenever you want to start the slideshow, Pastor, I think we can go past this slide, and we'll just start right in with the history of of how we got started. It actually was at a Lutherans for Life event where my husband and I learned about abortion for the first time. We were young seminary students, kind of young. It was second career, so we weren't like, teenagers, but young adults. And we went to a conference and actually learned about what the atrocity of abortion and what that meant. And we came home that night very distraught, really. Upset with what we had learned and heard. And my husband said to me, "No, honey, it cannot be the first option that a woman thinks of is to abort her baby. It must feel pretty desperate, pretty alone, and have no other options." And he's the one who actually said, "Wouldn't it be great if we could open a home for unwed moms and help them?" And of course I said, "Yes, that sounds great, wonderful." And then life happened. Seminary was difficult. I was a stay-home mom at that time. I quit my job and I went to work, and Ed went to school and got busy raising our 3 children, and visited this dream from time to time as the years went by. We took a call. Our first call, our placement was in Sarasota, Florida. Very affluent town, beautiful church, and it just wasn't the right place or time for us, although we did keep looking into this dream. And so my husband took his second call to Sanford, Florida, a little town in Central Florida. We're between Daytona Beach. That's where Sanford sits, right between Orlando and Daytona Beach. Very small, older congregation, and they had gone through a church split where they had some problems with their previous pastor, and half the congregation left. So he came in as a healing pastor and still remains there today. So what happened is we started looking at this little house across the street from us that was really dilapidated, and we're like, wow, that might be a nice place for a maternity home. And so we started chit-chatting about it and just seeing how the congregation might feel about it. And we just had to continue to wait until the time was right. And what happened that motivated us and really propelled us into the future and to this track that we're on now is that our only daughter, our daughter, came home from college in a crisis pregnancy herself. She was getting ready to graduate from Florida State University with 2 degrees, a degree in finance and a degree in business, pregnant, and no boyfriend in sight. He was as far away as he could get. And my daughter said that we really needed to start this maternity home because without her faith and her family and her education, she didn't know what she would have done. And she said, you don't realize, Mom, how very tempting it is when you don't feel like you have any options, to that thought of aborting the baby and making that problem, so as we know it's not true, go away. She definitely understood the plight of these women who make that choice sometimes. Thankfully, she didn't, obviously. This is my daughter and her little boy. That's Warner's picture at his baptism. And now he is 11 years old. We are grateful to our daughter for choosing life for Warner. He's very precious and a beautiful, beautiful person in life. So she propelled us forward with her bravery and with her dedication to women who don't have the things she had. One night she moved back home after college, and she came through our living room and said, you know, Mom and Dad, we've got to start this maternity home. We just absolutely have to do it. And so we got out spiral notebooks and we started making notes, and we started thinking, well, gee, what does that look like? And we began forming a steering committee. But what she said was, what the things that she said, faith, family, education, were the founding principles that we ended up using to build the program at Redeeming Life. It's all about faith, all about family, and about education. When Katie was not showing yet, of course she came home. This was a difficult time for our family. I don't want to but rush over that. It was hard. You know, your husband's a pastor. There's certain expectations that are put on you as a family. And it was just a very difficult time for us. But Katie came to church one Sunday, and she, at the end of service, my husband always asks, does anyone have anything to share with the family? And up stands my daughter. And instantly I'm crying. Instantly my husband's crying, because we know what she's getting ready to say. And she stood up. She's a very brave woman. And she said, I have something to tell you. And she told them that she was pregnant. And she said, I'm here not to ask for your forgiveness, because I know that Jesus forgives me for all my sins. She said, however, I do need your support and your help and your love for my baby. And our church, our little church of, you know, not very many people, 130 at the time, I think, embraced her and our little grandson with open hearts, and not one word of judgment or shame was. So when that happened, we realized we were in the right place. You know, we knew that it was the right time. We now had an experience that we wanted to share, and we had an understanding of how vulnerable women choose abortion. And so we wanted to put some action behind the pro-life, you know, build on the educational arm of the abortion issue. And so we got busy, like I said, we started a steering committee, and we incorporated in 2012, and in 2013 we opened Southward House. And from there, it's just been 8 years of amazing ministry and growth, and we are so thrilled to be expanding now. Pastor, you can go to the next slide, please. So that brings us to who we are. We are a pro-life ministry of the LCMS. We are a recognized service organization, and we support single moms and postpartum mothers who are homeless, abused, or abortion-minded. Ultimately, the biggest thing and the best thing that we do is we have the privilege of sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ with these women and helping them to feel loved and welcomed and wanted, many for the first time in their life. Next slide. So I'll talk a little bit about our program offerings and what the model looks like. The first thing that we wanted to do was to make it a home and not an institution, and not a place that just where I'm going to stay a little while and then I'm moving on to the next program. So we visited many, many maternity homes all over the place, and we didn't like the feeling of the institutionalization of most of them. So we knew that's what we wanted. So we have a beautiful Christ-centered home with a family atmosphere. We based our program on a family model, a healthy family model, many things that our women have not ever been modeled. We have structured living. There's a schedule, and there's chores and all of those things that they participate as a family to maintain the home. They cook meals for each other every single night. One woman is assigned each night. They are mentored by our deaconess. Because we're an RSO, we're blessed to have called the deaconess to work in the ministry. Her name is Liz Borth, and she's phenomenal. She's so spiritual, and she's so wise with these girls. And she takes a lot of time, probably an hour and a half or two each week with each woman. And that's just in session time. So she's got other things that she prepares and does, but she gets to know these girls at a really deep level. And the beautiful thing about our deaconess we're very committed to having a deaconess in each of our maternity homes, because that's critical. Being able to weave the gospel into everything that we teach these women is critical to what we do. That is what we do. Anyone can run a maternity home, I say, but we are a Lutheran Christian maternity home, and we are there to proclaim Jesus Christ. And we are there to tell these girls that they're worth it and that he loves them. So above all, that's what we do. And we do it through these programs, through these services that we provide, and the counseling. We try to be compassionate and patient with the girls. They're not the easiest group of people to work with all the time. They're not necessarily girls like my daughter, who are well educated and have had a stable family all their life. They're usually broken in many ways. Another thing that we do that's very critical and important to our program is that the girls worship together, and they come to Bible study together, and they have devotions together. So they're learning to add that Jesus into their daily life through devotions and the way that the house operates, and then learning deeper in Bible study and in worship. One other thing they do is they go to our pastor's instruction class. And we do that. We do that mostly so that they understand who we are as Lutheran Christians. We want them to understand our motivation and why we do what we do. And also, obviously, to educate them a little more in biblical knowledge. And so that's probably one of my husband's favorite parts of what he gets to do in his world, is to teach instruction class. So that's a big joy. Sometimes the girls decide to join the church. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they baptize their babies. Sometimes they don't. But that opportunity is there, and they are well instructed in the Christian faith. Next slide. So I wanted to show you a picture of the Southward House. Take a good look at that. That is prior to the renovation. You can see, this is right outside our narthex door. So when you're standing in our narthex and you're looking out the window, you see this house. And there's just a street right in front of it. And so we purchased that, and we took 4 months from date of purchase to date of grand opening to do a complete renovation. You can show them the next picture. And that's our house. So it was a duplex. You can see the 2 garages on each side. We enclosed one of those garages, and that's where Deaconess Liz and I office. And then the rest of the house, the middle wall was open, and we now have a 6-bedroom, 4.5 bath house. Okay, next slide. So let's talk a little bit about the women that we serve. From our applicants, about 82% of them are unmarried. We only take single women, and that's because of legal and custody issues. With married women, it gets very complicated. We do have a referral for women who are married, but many of them end up going to the safe house for a little while first. So we do take single women. 66% of the women that come to us are unemployed. And they're having a difficult time finding jobs. Many of them have had more than 1 pregnancy. Most of them, this is a 2nd pregnancy, and many times they've had a previous abortion. It says 5% have previous abortion. That's of what we know. We find out sometimes after they left the house, that they did have another abortion prior to coming to us. So those numbers are only as good as the data that we have, obviously. Most of the girls want to keep and raise their baby. They just don't have the means to do it. So what they're hoping for, they come to our program in hopes of getting stable enough that they can raise their own child. We do encourage, or at least present and promote adoption. We've had a couple of our babies placed for adoption. We have a woman in the home right now who is due in June. And she is placing her little daughter for adoption. We are doing our very best to support her in that and to encourage her. And one of the difficulties when you have pregnant women and a mom that wants to abort in the same house is trying to, protect everyone's feelings. So we have the luxury here in Florida of the transitional house, and we have space for her there. So at the end of May, we're going to transfer her to our transitional home. So when she comes back from the hospital, she will have a little more privacy to grieve and through her sadness and the reality of the adoption without seeing the other babies that are in the house. That was offered to her, and she definitely wanted to do that. So we're really thankful that we have the ability to move her and get her a little more comfortable as we support her through the adoption process. Okay, next slide. So the people that come to us, they're living in amazing, tremendously horrific situations, many of them. They are doing what we call couch surfing down here, where they're going from friend to friend or acquaintance to acquaintance and sleeping for a few nights. They live in their cars. I'll show you a picture of a girl in a minute. That's where she was actually living in her car when she came to us. Many of them are in shelters or coming in from the hospital, but none of them are leaving stable homes to come and live with us. They're all in desperate need of safe and stable housing. I don't, when you're trying to solve your problems in your life, you can't do that if you're worried about where you're going to sleep and what you're going to eat. So it's important that we meet those basic needs immediately so that they can then take a moment, breathe, catch their breath, live in safety, and then start putting together a plan for their life. And that's what we try to help them do. We don't do the work for them, but we guide them and we support them and we encourage them. Next slide. So I told you these girls, many of them are suffering broken relationships. I can't think of one situation where the boyfriend was involved in 8 years. They're all, we're struggling with our relationship, or he's abusive, or he's in jail, or he's on drugs, or whatever. no support for them. They are also almost every single woman that we've ministered to has had some sort of physical or emotional trauma. Sexual abuse is tremendously, we see it often. It's just almost every single woman has had some sort of sexual trauma. They don't have enough money to live on their own. They don't know how to live. I was telling Lori one day, you know, these girls haven't been raised. They don't know how to do the basic things that you taught your daughters or your sons to do. And so we have to teach them things you take for granted, how to properly clean a toilet. I know that sounds ridiculous, but they need to learn that, how to properly make up a bed and to all of those things. So we address issues all from A to Z in the things that they need to learn and need to master in order for their life to improve. They often come in with lots of trouble sleeping and what we call food insecurity, where they don't know, they've been living hand to mouth, living off the dollar menu at McDonald's. They're now malnourished, or I would think undernourished, at least when they come to us. And we do provide and require nutritious, balanced meals. We actually approve the meal plan that they cook and decide what they're cooking, but we make sure that there's, you know, everything in there that's needed for, you know, for a healthy body and a healthy mind. And so, and they are full of worry. They're full of fear. They're full of what am I going to do and how am I going to take care of my baby? So those are some of the things that we face with these women, and that we walk with them in, and we watch a lot of healing take place over time. One of the things about our program is that in the maternity home, the girls can live with us for approximately a year. We don't put a finite date there because everyone's different and everyone's needs something different. So we give them that gift of time, so there's enough time to put their life plan together and start executing it. And then the next phase, if they're eligible, that's when they would move to our transitional living program, which is up to 2 more years, as long as they're working their program, they're keeping up with their savings plans, and they're they're moving forward. So we're blessed to have that second half of the ministry now. Okay, next slide. So one of the questions we ask on our application is, tell us your thoughts on God. You know, we try to leave it kind of broad. Most of them say, oh, I believe in God. Most of them identify as Christians. But what we find is that they really don't know grace and mercy. They've never been shown real mercy, and certainly don't understand what it means to live under the grace of God. So again, this is the thing that for us keeps us going every day and keeps us excited about what we do, is that when you see a woman who's so broken and so hurt blossom and turn around and all of a sudden be so excited to be in the program and doing her work, it's pretty incredible. Jenny shared a story. Jenny Hertel got to come and see our maternity home with her husband Dale, and we were so happy about that. And she got to meet one of our residents, and what she said was, when I got here, I was terrible. I was mean to the house mom. I was rebellious. I was, naughty. Basically, she was an absolute handful. And we were very close to asking her to leave the program because of her unwillingness to cooperate. But then she said something just clicked, and she said, I used to just go to church, but now I go to church. And her eyes were shining, and she was so excited to share that she knew what it meant to go to church now, and that it meant something to her. So those joys are the things, like I said before, keep us moving, and that we hope for every day. So next slide. Okay, I'm going to show you some pictures of the girls, and we're just going to go through them one by one. I'll tell you a little bit about, not each one, but a couple of them. So go ahead, we're just going to click one. This is Tori. Tori had twins. She was our first mom that had twins, and this is the baptism of Ava. Ahmad, the other twin, was also baptized. Tori was living in her car when she called us, and my husband and I, who he's actually sitting right here, interviewed her from the front seat of her car. And Tori was very cooperative in our program almost the entire time. Had beautiful baby twins, and she's now started her own bakery business. Small, but she's starting out, and she's doing very well. The second picture is Irtika and Ahmad, her son. And I'm sorry, yeah, Abir. I'm sorry, that's Abir. Ahmad is the twin. Anyway, Irtika is a Muslim. She was our only Muslim resident so far. And what I have to say about that is she was super bright, very smart. She's in dental school now. We were able to get her stabilized, and she stayed with us about 10 months, and she's doing incredibly well. But you know, the cool thing is she didn't convert to Christianity that I'm aware of, but she did hear the gospel. She heard the word of God. She prayed with us every day. She did devotions in the house, and she was bathed in Christian love. And that's what we're called to do. Next picture. That's Jules. She is volunteering at the food pantry that we run at our church. Next one. This is Maria and our previous house mom, Rachel. Just enjoying each other. She didn't stay with us the whole time. We had a difficult time with language with her, and also getting her motivated. She ended up going back to the Dominican Republic, which is probably a good thing for her. So that's again Tori over in the picture of the baptism, and those are the two twins. Next slide. And next picture. This is Joy. Joy also had twins. She was our second mom with twins, and Joy has quite a heartbreaking story. Her father was a missionary, and she went overseas with him as a child and was abused by a tribe in some way. They got a hold of her, and she had all kinds of sexual trauma. She's a beautiful Christian woman. She can speak and quote the Bible like no other person, but she has tons of lots and lots of mental and physical illnesses. So she did manage to have the twins. They're healthy, and she lives with her baby's mother now. And she's not very well. She can't really work, so she needs the support. So when she came to us, the goal with her was to get reconciliation with the family. And that was accomplished. So we worked really hard with her to work on the relationship with her mom and dad. And that now she spends quite a bit of time with them, but she's actually living with the boyfriend's parents. But she has had a lot of healing in her family and in their relationship. So everything's a little different. Each woman has their own story, as Pastor alluded to. Next picture. Oh, that's Anna decorating the Christmas tree. Okay. And this is Caroline. Now, Caroline was our Max in the background. He's our very first baby that was born in our house. And he is now starting first grade next year. He's in kindergarten. And Caroline finished our program and moved to South Carolina to try to reconcile with the father. Had a very tough time of it. Things didn't go well. And she called us. We had kept in touch with Caroline all over the years. And she said, you know, I need help. I need to come back. What can we do? What can I do? And we had just opened our transition home about 9 months before. So Caroline actually entered that program as a bit of an exception. But again, we're doing ministry, so it's not always by the book. You know, we do what we need to do. So Caroline entered our transitional house program with her son, Max, and is now preparing to move out into her own place. She's been there almost a year, and she's doing great. When she came to us, she was coming out of drug rehabilitation. And when you get pregnant and you're in drug rehab, generally they make you leave. So she was searching for a program with support, and she's been sober for 9 years. Very proud of Caroline. Okay. And that's Catalina and me in the backyard. She was sweet and dear, and she has a beautiful little baby boy. Next. We have a lot of boys for some reason. I don't understand. And that's Dominga on her birthday. She had the nicest birthday, and she has just felt so special. And that's another thing that we get to do is a little bit of doting from time to time. We don't spoil them per se, but we do try to make them feel special from time to time because they are. Okay, just a couple more. What's next? There's my husband, Ed, and these two ladies are current residents in our home. The girl in the blue sweater is placing her little baby daughter for adoption. That is Alyssa. We would appreciate your prayers for Alyssa. It's difficult. And then that is our Miss Jasmine, and she has a little 10-week-old baby boy and doing quite well. Both of these ladies were confirmed in the Christian faith, and the baby Traylon was baptized. Go with that. That's one of our twins. That's either, I don't know if that's Celeste or if it's Shepherd, but it's one of them. And that's Allie with her baby daughter, Alice. I just love that picture. I think that's all. Oh, no, there's another baptism. That's Traylon's baptism. We just had that one about a month ago. So I just wanted to share some of the real faces and lives that we get the honor to touch. So what's next? Well, as you know, or I hope you know, that we are expanding the ministry to the Northern Illinois district. Now, I'm sure it's going to come up in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it. Why the Northern Illinois district? Why not the Southern Illinois district? Or why not, here or there? And that's really because of Pastor Meisner's connection that we made through Vonda Toner, who is an LCEF, Lutheran Church Extension Fund employee. And she heard me do a presentation here in Florida, connected me up there with there was a committee a subcommittee, I believe, I'm not exactly sure, somebody might want to correct me, how that maternity home committee came out. I'm not sure if it was the Life Task Force subcommittee or not, but at any rate, they were looking at how could we open a maternity home? And they were looking into this process and trying to get organized and figure out what's next and what's first and what's second. And when I did this presentation, and so we got connected and we had a couple of meetings, and it was decided that, as the relationships developed, that, hey, we have the desire, you have the program, why don't you come up here and open up your next one? Because expansion has been on our radar, but it's, it's kind of like that first one. We needed a nudge, we needed to go, and somebody to say, yes, let's do it here. So that's how we got in partnership with the Northern Illinois district. And like I said at the beginning of the presentation, it's been truly amazing how organized and motivated this group of people is. And so here we are. We are under contract on a house in Carpentersville. It's actually the parsonage of a little church called Faith Lutheran. We're going to be attending services and instruction at Manual, East Dundee, which is just about 4 miles down the road. Carpentersville, the little church Faith, is very small and only has a part-time pastor. And so it's not a perfect setting for us, but we will, of course, be close neighbors to them and good friends with Faith. So we're thankful to them. So where we are in the process with the Northern Illinois district is we're waiting for our closing date to be announced. We have met with this village of Carpentersville, worked out some issues with zoning, and or we're working on the issues and challenges. But again, as with everything that happened here in Florida, the Lord is preceding us and working these things out before we even have to deal with them. So we're really excited about that. Once we have closing, we will immediately begin renovations, and we are putting together a project plan. Is Jacqueline on the call? Jacqueline is going to be our project manager and kind of managing that process of remodel, and so she'll be keeping track. We'll be needing volunteers for demolition. There's a place on our website where you can go and sign up your group. If you guys want to come and help tear something up or put something back, we'll get you to work. So we're starting all of that organizational part that has to happen because the remodel is a big deal. It takes a while, and when the house is in need of some love, kind of like the one that you saw in the previous picture. Then we will be calling a program manager, deaconess for, we call it DPM, Director of Program Ministries. And so we'll be extending that call, hiring a residential manager to live on premises. The maternity home does have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week presence. We always monitor that house for obvious reasons. Woman can go into labor at any time. We could have an emergency at any time. And these girls need supervision, emotional support all the time. So then we're going to have a big grand opening celebration, and then we're going to start our work. So, and then I think probably before we even get to that grand opening, because there's been so much excitement about this, the NID expansion and how well it's going, we've had people reaching out to us to consider their area for the next expansion. Our dream at Redeeming Life is to put a maternity home in every single district and or state in the United States. We can do a lot more work in this area of supporting women in need. We're only one of 2 Lutheran-run maternity homes that I know. And so it's Redeeming Life and it's Place of Refuge in Wisconsin. And so, and I believe that's a district-run project. So they're not kind of free to expand like we are, as far as I know. But I really am going to challenge our Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod, to step up to the plate here, and let's start supporting these women who are on the cusp of abortion, who need support, or you know, and I really think that we can do so much more work in this area. Okay. I should say, let me just speak real quick to the funding. We set a fundraising goal in the NID of $175,000, our phase 1 goal. And that was to help us raise the money to purchase the home and renovate the home and get started with all of that cost. And then of course, we'll start raising the annual fund after we get this done. But you can see this number is actually a little bit higher. We've raised $160,000 as of tonight. So we're very close to that $175,000 goal, which is amazing. Obviously, we won't stop there. We have to do donor development, and we have to have ongoing support. But this, to me, shows how very dedicated the people of the NID are about life, about these life issues, and about a life-affirming ministry. So again, when the Lord gives you the dream and He gives you the passion, and then He backs it up with money and with the support that you need, we have to go, you guys. We have to do this. So we're thrilled. Okay, that's all I have as far as the formal presentation goes. Pastor, you want to, there's our website. Please like us on Facebook. And any information that you want about especially about the expansion or about the ministry as a whole, please visit our website. And there is a specific page on the expansion project. It's called Illinois Expansion. It's not hard to find. So check it out and like us on Facebook.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Cheryl, for going into the details of all this. And we've had several side chats going on. I am going to call on Reverend Craig Meisner and allow him to share a little bit. He said he had some additional things. And then I'm going to call on somebody who's a very interested party, Channy Mullins, who is with Plan of the SBA, and she's joined our call tonight. And I want her to introduce herself after Craig talks and ask a couple of her questions as well. So Pastor Meisner, would you please go ahead?
Yeah, I think you might be referring to what we had been just chatting about in the chat box is a little bit, just the initial workings of it. Just from our end, everything just miraculously really dropped into place. I cannot make this up. I'm not one to easily say that, but it just said, I just had to say, wow, in seeing how this was all working. I know Vonda's not on the call here. Well, from my end, I had just become the new life coordinator for our district. And I had always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to see a project like this, having a maternity home, ever since I got introduced to it at the LCMS Life Conference back in, I believe it was like 2015 or so, that I had gone to. And I saw the presentation given by Trish from Place of Refuge, our other LCMS affiliated home in Milwaukee. And I just said, that's a great story. We really should do this, because this is really bringing women to the faith, and it's showing that we care, people. And that's often what people in this day and age, they really just want to see this, and they don't really have ears too much for the gospel and the intellectual type side of things. At least initially, but it opens the way for the gospel. And also, it's just, we care about life. We genuinely do. And so many opportunities and people. I always had that in her presentation in the back of my mind. Well, anyway, I had been at it was during the 40 Days for Life. I had been outside of a Planned Parenthood holding up a sign, pretty close to my house. And then I saw this vacant lot across the street. I said, this would be a great place for a maternity home. And just kind of had that in the back of my mind. And I think that one day in Bible study at my church, I threw that out to the Bible study, to the folks at my Bible study. And well, one of the guys from my church, he was talking with his neighbor who had great connections with an organization called Aid for Women, which has its own maternity home in the Chicagoland area, actually 2 homes, but it's more toward the north side and northwest side. Yeah, and I said, and he told me that his neighbor had the same idea of using that vacant lot, because Aid for Women had a location right next to the Planned Parenthood where they help moms. They gave them resources and whatnot. And they thought something about like using that lot for a maternity home. And I said, hey, we can help with this. And so I called up Vonda Toner. She's our LCEF representative here in Northern Illinois, because I knew that she had mission insight resources and other things like that. And Vonda said, I was just in Florida for a conference with LCEF, and I got to see Sheryl DeWitt's home. And I said to Bart Day, this would be wonderful. Bart Day said we should be doing this all over the place. We could turn this into a big booming thing throughout the LCMS and make this our type of mission. And I was like, whoa, you guys are thinking at the same time I am. And this is just wonderfully taken off. And, total godsend like this. it was wonderful. And then, I'm sorry if I'm just getting long-winded here, but jump in, Cheryl, if you want to say anything.
No, you're doing a great job. That story.
Yeah. Well, we did demographic study and everything. And, I remember it was back in June of 2019. And then I was over at Dennis's house. Dennis was my member's Roman Catholic neighbor, who was involved with Aid for Women. And we had a few people there, including Lori, who's here, Lori Trinchy. She's on the board, and we have and we had Vonda there, at least on Zoom, and a few others from the pro-life community here in the Chicago Southland. And so we tried to think what could we do, and would this be a good location, and to think of where we would go from here. Well, it kind of got put on hold for the rest of the summer because torrential rains and floods hit the southern suburbs that very night. And well, it got put on hold, but then it got started at the end of the summer. Started asking a bunch of pastors. I threw out this idea at my regional pastors conference, and Pastor Bill Ryden was one, I believe. Bill, I don't know, did I throw it out or did I just come to you? Anyway, he said that I might know somebody who might be interested in helping to make near my church a location. And and also we had heard, part of the reason is we had heard that there was a maternity home actually available through Dennis's wife, who had connections with Aid for Women, as well as Illinois Right to Life. And there was an organization that had to give up this maternity home. And I said, hey, we're all over that. And I called up who was the spokeswoman for Illinois Right to Life at the time. Wow, why is it blanking me all of a sudden? Her name?
Mary Kate.
Mary, yeah, thank you. Mary Kate Knorr, thank you. Yeah. Who was that? Was that Bill? Pastor Ryden?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, hey, Bill. Okay, Pastor Ryden. Yeah. Mary Kate. And she happened to live right there in Joliet, and it was just all a perfect setup. And so we had the house all lined up and everything ready to go, ready to turn over for sale. And then Cheryl, I started getting people together, and then Cheryl, I called up Cheryl, and I had been in touch with Aid for Women. I'm sorry, Aid for Women also, but also the South Wisconsin District Home, a place of refuge, trying to get resources and stuff, and wondering about how we could organize this. And we had all kinds of steps going. And then Cheryl and Ed spoke up and said, hey, we'd like to jump in here, and we'd like to we got the workings of it. Let's start expanding. And so Cheryl graciously took it over, and now I can actually see my family again. So, yeah.
Pastor, thank you for sharing. It was so wonderful that you were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
God was placing upon your mind these thoughts, that you had the connections with LCEF, you had opportunities. Things have certainly come together in a God-pleasing way. But this is just an example of how the groups form and they get started. Isn't that right, Cheryl? This is exactly how these sort of things come into play.
Yeah, and it really is amazing how it fell together here in Florida. You know, when I left my 25-year career in insurance and stepped into this, I was scared to death. I mean, just not gonna lie. I don't know if I can do this. You know, I was scared, but the Lord did help me, and He's doing it again, and putting the people in front of me that I need, or that if I don't understand something about. Well, I was the construction manager for that summer, but you know, He would put the experts there, and it's just like what happened as Pastor Meisner was saying. Things, God will work it out, and now He's got Jacqueline helping me with the project management. We've got Lori as our local representative on the ground. We, you know, it's just amazing to watch it, and fun. So
that's excellent. And I want to give Channy Mullins, who's joined our call tonight. Channy's with another national organization, Plan for SB8. Channy, you have a couple of questions that I want you to ask, but also just tell us a little bit about what you do, specifically in Virginia and Georgia now. Is that right?
You got it. Thank you so much, Pastor Duncan. I'm Channy Mullins with PLAN, the Pregnancy and Life Assistance Network, PLAN. We believe that women want to make a better plan than abortion, and we want to help them do it. And we are completely part of the Susan B. Anthony List Education Fund. And Susan B. Anthony List's president, Marjorie Dannenfelser, really wanted a project that would prepare for a post-Roe America. So when abortion, we pray, becomes illegal, we want to be able to support the women and the families. And we want people to know this is not just about saving babies. This is about helping women and helping families. And so we are doing that through a series of initiatives in our 2 pilot states of Virginia and Georgia, but have a plan in the next 4 to 5 years to be in 30 states, including Florida. So I'm so happy to connect with you, Cheryl. You'll be hearing from me again.
Okay, great.
We are doing a directory of resources for the entire state so that we can have one centralized location and custom app to vet for pro-life status and all the different types of assistance providers. And we've organized those assistance providers by the 7 reasons that women say they feel like they needed an abortion. And so we are hard at work on those directories, and we are also hard at work on a church toolkit pathways guide to help inspire churches to engage more in life issues. And we are so happy. I just put in the chat that we're doing a study on the I got muted again.
Yeah, something happened.
It's so wonderful to feature Lutherans for Life in our upcoming church toolkit. So we are just so inspired by a denomination that isn't afraid to be pro-life and to really live out what it means to be pro-life in terms of helping women just as much as babies, and that love them both message that we're so big on at Plan. We really try to emphasize that. So I loved your talk, Cheryl. Thank you so much for sharing your heart. I'm just going to my questions here. I wondered if you had any interaction with the National Maternity Housing Coalition or the National Christian Housing Conference. As we've been doing work in Georgia and Virginia, we hear those names as potential resources to help maternity homes. And we also hear that housing is one of the biggest gaps, and there just simply aren't enough housing resources. So I just wondered if you could speak to both those things.
Yeah, okay. Yes, no, I have not had any interaction with either of those. We are members of Heartbeat International. They support pregnancy centers and all kinds of other, pro-life things. But I am familiar with the coalition, but not the other one.
That's awesome. And do you find that there is enough housing in Florida, or do you find that we also kind of hear some contradictory things in that there's not enough housing, and then the housing that there is, girls don't want to go into because of the program. And so how do you get them to understand, this is good for you and this is not meant to restrict you to the level of, being annoying, we're doing it for your good type of thing? How have you communicate that message?
That's a super great question, because there are not enough homes, that's for sure. However, occupancy staying full can sometimes be a challenge too, because of exactly what you said. We are a program and we are teaching, life skills and how to live in a community, how to live with other women. All kinds of issues can come up. And you're right, often, or not often, I shouldn't say, many times the girls just don't want to be restricted. They're not ready to make a real change in their lives. So, it's a struggle with the girl I showed you in the picture, Jasmine. She was very close to having to leave the program because of the rebellion, the cursing, the carrying on in the house. And, there's only so much of that you can tolerate, but we really try to lead with grace. We try with compassion and to understand that that's all she knows. That is the only way she knows to fight and scrap through this world. And so we have a whole procedure where we will do a corrective action, and we try to make everything positive, is that we're trying to help you, adjust here. So let's do this or let's do that. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And so you have to, it's a struggle for Deaconess and I and our house mom, because we immediately love these girls. And we, from the time we interview them, we are all in, and they're not always all in. And so, but what we've had to learn to tell ourselves over time is we have them for the specific time that God gave them to us. And we're going to rejoice in that. We're going to tell them about Jesus on day one, and we're going to model Christian love and living for them. And you know, that sounds great. It's hard. It's hard. And we get heartbroken sometimes, but we always end up and saying, well, you know, you never know. You never know when something that they heard will grow and sprout. And that's we've seen it happen. And so yes, it can be an issue. Programs, you know, they want a place to come and lay their head sometimes and not necessarily do the hard work. We are not a house that they can sit on the couch and eat bonbons. That's just not what we do. We don't have television on Monday through Friday from 9 in the morning till 5 at night, because where are you during those hours? You're at work, right? You're working on your life. So we, you know, there is structure and but everything we do, we try to make sure it matches with the fruits of the Spirit, and that it's there for a reason and not just to have a rule, you know, just because we can have power or whatever, you know. So that's how we come.
Thank you so much. It's very inspiring.
Call me anytime.
Thank you, Janie, for sharing what Plan at SBA does. And I know that Jennifer Boberg wants to connect with you as well. So maybe you can message her your email address through our chat section. Jennifer, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak a little bit about some of the things that you had commented, but I'm going to ask Dennis Brink first to ask his question. Dennis, you had a question about triage. Do you want to ask that?
Yes. In Fort Wayne, about 2 years ago, a maternity home for homeless women, specifically for homeless women, was started. And I remember going to it was originated by Catholics, but it's multi-denominational. Lutherans for Life was there at that meeting, and several other denominations. And also the government was involved because of infant mortality is really big in Indiana. And we're looking for some funds from infant mortality to help get this started. But I remember one of the discussions they had was there are more homeless pregnant women than they had capacity for in this home. So I was wondering, in your home, how do you do triage to select which applicants to admit?
How do we triage them, or how do we bring them in, or what's our application process? Is that the question?
Yes. How do you decide which ones that you will accept into your home?
Okay, that is also great. We do have an application process. It's we send the women to the website, they apply online, they watch a video about what's life like at the Redeeming Life Maternity Home. And then we set up an in-person interview if at all possible. Obviously last year during COVID, it was difficult. We did a lot more Zoom interviews, but we really like, if possible, to sit down face-to-face. But when a girl's coming from South Florida, or we actually had a resident from Fort Wayne in Indiana who came all the way from Fort Wayne to our home, then you have to do them online. But we sit down, so it's usually myself, Deaconess, my husband, and sometimes our house manager will all get in a room with the applicant, and we go through the application. And I'll tell you, a lot of times on paper, they look terrible. They look like, oh, we can't take her. She's a mess. There's too much there. And then we meet her and we talk with her, and our hearts just go out to her. And we almost always offer, if we have space, we almost always offer residency. The exceptions would be if we can detect or pick up an extreme mental health issue. We are not a medical facility at all. We have, other than we had a doula working for us once, which was great, but we don't provide any medical services there. So sometimes the mental health issues that go along with the homelessness, it can be pretty severe. So we do it through interview, we do it through prayer. Once we are done with our interview, it usually takes about an hour, and Lori's actually sat in on a few, and we need to get her doing a few more of those. We leave saying that we will send you an email or call you in less than 24 hours. We will be back to the woman, and we try to discuss it as a team. And then we either offer residency or we offer referral. But like I said, most of the time we offer residency.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Dennis, for those
Thank you for the
questions as
question.
well. Jennifer, you had some comments and I asked if you were willing to share some. Would you like to go ahead and do that now?
There we go. I was unmuting. Thank you. So I am now an advocate in the Northern Illinois district from St. Paul Canfield. So we thank you. And we're just east of O'Hare Airport on the northwest side of Chicago in unincorporated Norwood Park. So we're not that close to Carpentersville, but we're part of the NID. And I first heard about this ministry through Lutheran Church Charities, through Diane Bonfield, who I do a lot of partnering with for ministry work. And I am the chairperson for the Board of Evangelism and sit on the board of directors at St. Paul. So I was looking for opportunities for our congregation that has also gone through some trauma and splits within our congregation. I was looking for things for our congregation to be involved in ministry opportunities. And Diane told me about Redeeming Life Outreach Ministry and the day of during the Day of Life celebration back in January, I think that was. And we were able to share some initial information in January in our bulletin and just pray for all lives and in all stages of life during our worship service. And then as the information for the maternity home started to be released, then I was asked to become an advocate. I got on board with that. But why I personally found this ministry important is I've seen the results. I personally, from growing up, remember friends who had abortions, who chose that as their solution to their problem. And one of them was a niece of mine. And I also saw that with my niece, how it affected her mental health, the after effects of an abortion. And it really kind of devastated her, even though she later had children. My oldest daughter, which is my stepdaughter, got pregnant before she got married, when she was 19. And she and her boyfriend did eventually get married, and were married for 17 years and had 3 kids together. Now they're divorced, sadly. But I remember, my husband works for our church. He's the building engineer and maintenance supervisor, and was an elder for many years. And me sitting on various boards and doing ministry at St. Paul. It's almost like being a PK. You grow up with your parents very involved in the church. There are expectations. And so when that happens, it's like, the trauma of it all. But, they did choose to keep their son, and between her mom and stepdad and Mia's stepmom and her dad, we all helped, and they made it, for a long time as a married couple and with the kids. So it worked. We had our church organist, her 16-year-old daughter got pregnant. And we all, as a church, supported them. And she just got married this last summer, and her daughter is now 8. So, but that was they say it takes a village, right? But the church was the village in this case, and we were there to support her. But for so many young girls, as Christians, and I'm saying globally across the denominations, so many of the denominations promote life and are, talk against abortion, and then don't offer any other solution. And you can say, don't do this to somebody, but if you don't give them an alternative that is real and tangible and usable, then they're just going to laugh at us. They're just going to say, yeah, right. Okay, great.
Right.
You know, you got your agenda, but that
Yeah.
doesn't do me any good right now. And this is real and tangible. And yeah, it's limited right now. There's not as many resources as there is need, which I posted in the chat, the starfish on the beach. You know, there are more starfish on the beach drying out in the sun than the little boy could throw back into the water. And the man said, why are you doing this? You know, you're never going to be able to help all of them. With that, the little boy bent over and picked up another starfish and threw it in the water and said, but I helped that one.
Right.
And for every girl, every child that we help that one, or you witnessed to that one. Maybe they didn't become baptized. Maybe they didn't, you know, claim faith in Christ, but they heard the gospel and they felt the love of God in that moment and with us. And that's why I think this ministry is important. Because, and if your vision of a maternity home in every district comes true, and I believe God puts a desire in our heart and in our mind because he's planting that seed for an idea, and it might not come to fruition in your lifetime, not being negative, just saying it's a big idea, and it's going to take a while to happen. But I think, you know, God doesn't put that idea there unless it's meant to happen, and we'll make it happen through all of these different people and resources. So I think this is very important. My youngest daughter is adopted. I thank God her mom was an addict. She is technically one of 13 children. We have one of the 13, but her mom could have aborted her,
Right.
but she didn't. Okay. And because of that, I have a wonderful, you know, daughter because of that. So God has plans. And you know, Jeremiah, that's her verse. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. And that applies here as well. You know, that this seed was planted, this idea, this thought, Cheryl, with you and your family, and then your daughter. Boy, God used that situation, Cheryl. That story was great. You know, it's real. God used that to make this ministry happen. How wonderful is that? And then the connections, the random connections to make what's happening in the Northern Illinois district happen. That's not random. None of that was random. That was all, you know, on purpose. But we, as the followers of Jesus Christ, have to be open. You know, we have to have our eyes open to those opportunities when they come across, right? Those connections that can happen. And those children those women we can meet, and those babies that need help. And then we have to say, yes, Lord, to those things. And even when we don't know how that's going to happen and how it's going to work. Right. So, you know, right now I'm behind this as a prayer partner and as a supporter. I'm doing our first baby bottle fundraiser. We put the match grant out, you know, in the church bulletin, but now we got the baby bottle fundraiser, and I'm hoping to get some volunteers out to the house to, again, getting that more tangible, not just here, give us money, but that more tangible involvement from the congregation as well. But I think this is a great ministry, and I, you know, pray God will continue to bless it and grow it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I just wanted to thank her for her comments. It's beautiful. And I wanted to just real quick say that it seems like no matter what group I'm talking to, everyone, there are stories out there. Women have either had an abortion, or someone they know did, or had a crisis pregnancy, or their daughter was pregnant, or this happened or that. So, you know, this is, you know, it's not a rare event. And I wanted to say something also, I think, Cheney, that you had said, I hope I said your name right, in that we are not only here, I'm not sure if you said this, but not only here to save babies. We absolutely want to save babies, but we're here to minister to that mom for that 9-month period while she's growing and caring and nurturing that child. And we have an opportunity not only change the life of the child by having it be born, but to really hopefully make a positive change in her life. Now she's influencing this child in a different way, and the ripple can just be very large. And we only help 5 to 6 women at a time in each house, but we help them deeply. You know, we're not just putting a Band-Aid on their problem and saying, go have a nice life. You know, we're really, if they're committed, we're committed. So I just wanted to say that it is a ministry to women and babies.
Cheryl, I put out a tongue and cheek statement in the chat session. Which is better, a church and Christians caring for children and moms, or the state and the government in foster homes and agencies? And I think we know what that answer would be. Maybe we can only do 6 at a time, but that doesn't mean it's the limit for where this can go. And more and more folks know about these opportunities. We have cheerleaders like Jennifer out there getting the word out and supporting and encouraging and being positive about this. Pastors like Pastor Meisner, who are praying about and looking for those opportunities for these new homes to be planted and grow, and all of these other God foreseen opportunities come together. Cheney will be one who will testify that when people hear and they know of the needs, they respond. That's one of the reasons their group puts out so much newsletters and prints and organizes lists so that people can be effective with where they turn to. And this is what your future is as well. Ronnie, you have a question about what they're doing with folks. Please ask that.
Yeah, it's kind of a 2-part question. First of all, this is awesome, and I'm just in awe of what you guys are all doing. So thank you so much, and I thank God for you guys. Question is, these girls, while they're in your house, in the house, are they also like working towards high school diplomas or GEDs at the same time? And I guess the second part of the question is, and the answer may be no after you described your application process, but have you had any girls in there who were at least functionally illiterate or enumerate and had issues along those lines as well?
Thank you for that question. There is a requirement in that if we find out what their education level is upon intake, because we need to know where we're at. And if they do not have their GED, then that is a requirement. It's not a question. It's not maybe you should. That's kind of an entrance thing. You have to work on your GED because you have to be able to educate yourself in order to get a decent job and to move forward. So that's definitely there. We have both an education track and an employment track, and then we kind of have a hybrid where they'll work part-time and go to school part-time because they're all worried about money, right? Even though there's no cost to stay at our home, we cover everything for them and take that burden away. There is a savings requirement. They're required to save 40% of their income, and we monitor that. But they have to go to school, and we would like them to go to further education. Like you saw the one girl who's going to become a dentist. She's well on her way. She went to hygienist school or dental assistant school while she was with us. But they're not all in the same place as Irtika. She was quite educated, and her culture was the problem for her. The fact that she was pregnant and the way they marry in the Muslim community was news to us, the way that all works. So that was a little bit different, but we have had functionally illiterate women come in, and that's we had one of our girls wanting to volunteer in the front office at the church. So we had her doing some alphabetizing, and she couldn't alphabetize. She didn't know her alphabet. Not well enough to alphabetize. So it's that we see the full gamut, and so they need special services. And we work closely with our community college here, and also this would be a great way for a volunteer to come in and work with our program manager to maybe work one-on-one with a special needs woman, because they definitely they're smart enough, they just haven't been taught. And I'm amazed at how many of them don't finish school. It's really incredible. And it's opened my eyes to a world that, I lived middle America. It's just opened my eyes to the difficulties that so many people are raised in, and lack of love and nurturing when they were brought up. So when they first come in, sometimes, I don't mean to run on, but sometimes they don't trust us because they're like, nobody's really loves like this. Nobody, what they think there's an angle somewhere or another, that we want something from them or something. And when they figure out that that's not true, they start to trust. That's really a beautiful thing. I will say that we don't take any government funding either because, well, first of all, I don't have time to write the grants. They're very intense and labor intensive from what I understand. And I am not a fundraiser at heart. That's not what I was trained to do, but we don't do it because we want to be able to freely speak about Jesus. So just so everybody knows that.
Yeah. Thank you. That was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we are at the end of our 8:30 time, the planned time. So I will stay on if Cheryl will stay on if there's other questions as well. But I do want to give opportunity for those who need to leave to know that it's okay to drop off. Thank you for joining us and for listening to Sheryl DeWitt talk about Redeeming Life Outreach Ministries, both in Florida and in the Northern Illinois district. We'll look forward to hearing more about that. So if you do need to go, remember the 18th, there's going to be a unique dog and pony show as we talk about the Step Up for Life campaign. And I'll be hosting and doing some telethon activities and signing folks up for our latest and newest edition of fundraising at Lutherans for Life. So we'll hope you'll be here at 7 p.m. on the 18th. So take care if you have to go. We'll stay on.
Dog and kitty show
questions.
too?
Oh yeah, we can have a kitties on there too. I've got two. So God's
No,
blessings.
I'm gonna sign off. Thank you, everybody.
All right, God's blessings to those who have to leave.
For coming.
Bye-bye.
There's my little kitty.
Ah, well, I'm gonna have to show our kitty
Oh, nice.
before the end of this night is over. Okay.
Yeah, Pastor Duncan, I don't know if anyone asked the question about how to get involved as an advocate, but we've got a lot of information out on the website where people can sign up if they'd like to learn more about how they can serve the organization, and also several materials that people can use to do presentations in their congregations as well. So right now, getting the word out is really important. We actually have several advocates on the call tonight. So everybody's doing a great job of getting the word out in their congregations and fundraising now as well too. So.
Well, in terms of advocacy, and Lori, you might be able to speak to this. Cheryl, certainly you'll be able to speak to this. It seems like you need lots of hands doing lots of different things, and obviously a lot of them are volunteer unpaid positions. That's how these organizations operate on shoestring budgets and make things work. What are some of the volunteer positions you do at your current homes, and where would you like to see them expand? And how would you like to see that happen in the NID as you expand?
Some of our main positions right now would be, we have an event coordinator. She's a volunteer. She does all of our booking of our baby bottle campaigns and trying to connect with our churches here in this district in Florida, Georgia. So that would definitely be something that we would need one or two people to help us with. We are a lean staff, like you said. So we do rely heavily on Kyle for her volunteer coordinating of our events, everything from open houses to our major gala that we have every year. The other thing we have people who come in and teach in the home, everything from cooking, how to cook. For example, if Connie wanted to come in and cook her favorite Sunday dinner and show the girls how to do that, that's a hands-on. It's a small setting, and it's usually a lot of fun for everyone, and it teaches an important skill. We have at least one in service every month where there's a special speaker or some sort of educational opportunity, and those are all run by our volunteers. We also have donation management that can be a little hard to manage because sometimes we get a lot of one thing and not enough of another thing, and so we share with our local community. If we get too many, we don't get too many diapers usually because those you go through. But let's say you just get one thing that we do share a lot of, and we're happy to do it, is our blankets. We get a lot of handmade and homemade blankets, and our girls love them. They love them because it's homemade. They don't have anybody to make them anything homemade. And so when they get it, that's pretty precious to them. So we really appreciate our quilters and our crocheters and knitters, because they make us hats and burp blankets and all kinds of whatnots that babies and mommies need. So those are kind of some of the main things. We also have a couple of times a year, we do special outdoor, cleanup, spring cleaning for the inside and the outside. Our moms are often, especially towards the end of the pregnancy, they have a hard time doing the deep chores that we require, and we keep a very clean house. It's just important to me, and it's important to it's just part of our culture, is that the house is very neat and clean. And so sometimes they can't do the level of cleaning that we need done every month. So we have special volunteers that come in and assist them. They always work side by side with the women. So that's another big thing. One thing we'd like to expand and try to grow as we grow, and is to figure out the how to do a mentoring program. We just haven't quite gotten there, but it's a desire of Deaconess Liz to find some way to pair a special friend, a special mentor. There's a few pitfalls there that we have to be careful of, because you don't want the mentor giving the woman money or working outside the program. You want to protect your mentor. So we're looking to develop that, and we'll be, there may be somebody in NID who's got some expertise in that area. So that's one of the things we do. Also trying to, one of the things in the future would be a transportation ministry. We have a van, 15 passenger van in the Florida home, and we will have a van in the Illinois home. And sometimes we need volunteers to help us get the girls where they need to go. The house manager can't always do it. And transportation is a real issue for these girls, as is daycare. One of the visions that we have is to open a 24-hour or an extended hour daycare that's attached to the ministry in some way. We haven't been able to develop that, but it's definitely a need that we're trying to get creative now. And how can we help the girls through the daycare issue? What can we do, whether on a volunteer basis or an on-call basis, to help them when daycare is expensive, not available, or the baby is just slightly sick? Sometimes, daycares don't let you come when there's a sniffle or something like that. And so we're trying to work through some of those problems with them. And so all of that can be volunteer supported.
So I have a question concerning the aftercare, and it's going to address the aftercare after the aftercare. We have so many folks that are aging in our church populations, living in homes, sometimes with extra rooms, lots of extra opportunity to house folks. Is there any thoughts in connecting folks who are transitioning out of the transition part into a place where they maybe can continue to save some extra money and also provide that companionship and have a place to stay in people's homes as they continue to work towards their own place outside of that?
That's a great idea. No, we haven't actually had that discussion. The girls are usually ready after transitional living to get out on their own and to be independent. They have that's just their own personal desire is what we think. But I think that's a great, if we could have the problem is, you get the list of people who would take a roommate, and it could be a year before they get. Yeah. So though there's challenges in that, but I think that's a great idea and something definitely to spend some.
And there could be, and this is going to be a growing concern, there could be folks who are willing to have some live-in assistance, and there could be people who are wanting to do some training in that kind of live-in assistance care and caregiving. And providing 24-hour care is a very honorable way to earn a living and earn a place to stay. And would provide that care and companionship for people in need so that we can keep them out of nursing homes and assisted living centers, that they can stay in their own homes. So
yeah, as long as they don't mind a toddler.
Understand that, but a lot of your folks or older
Would love
grandparents
it.
would love to have that
Would love it.
noise and opportunity to have somebody young to dote on. So
Let me let me speak to that. When we were first starting and we were looking at that duplex that we ended up buying, right next to that are quadplexes. So there's 2 apartments on the bottom, 2 apartments on the top. And our original hope was that we could buy one of those. And the vision was that for transitional living, we put mommies and babies upstairs and elderly that needed safe and affordable housing in the lower floors, and kind of build that little multi-generational community there. We still hope to do that one day, but so far those quads, they were bought at the peak, like in 08, 06, 08, when everything was sky high, and nobody can afford to sell them because they bought them too expensive. So, but that's not, God hasn't opened that door yet. And that's why we ended up buying the other house for our transitional house, because we just couldn't shake one of those properties loose. But I love the idea of multi-generational living and support, especially in our Christian community. I dealing with my my parents now and trying to figure out how we're going to keep them in their home, and they have us. So, but there's a lot of people that don't, and that would be a great idea.
yeah, I recognize the struggles and the vetting and all the things that go along with that. But this is part of growing with God. We learn to trust people, and we learn to take some chances and go with it. And forgiveness and
the challenges.
that solution is there. So, Christine, you had a comment. Did you want to put that out to everybody else, or?
Hi, Chris.
No, it was just that I love that idea, Pastor Duncan, that because intergenerational living is the norm in most of the world.
Yes.
America is the oddity. And actually now I teach respite care, actually, as one of my side little ministries. And there are a lot of grandchildren caring for grandparents, and because the grandparents have taken the grandchildren in to raise them and have grown elderly while they're still trying to raise their grandchildren. And now we're finding 10 and 12-year-olds are coming home from school to care for their grandparents, who are the guardians for them because the parents are not around anymore. So I guess I think that, that is a model we should and need to look into for the well-being, of our older generation that may not have children able to be in state.
Well, and considering the housing crunch and the struggle that we're having finding housing for young people, this is certainly an opportunity to share the housing that already exists, that is in many cases paid for and in good shape with our older generation. So, Cheryl, there's just something to add to your plate there to think about, huh?
Yeah, that's
well, great. I think that is going to be in consideration, though, for us in Northern Illinois district. The cost of housing and apartments are just not affordable for single moms once they make out of the transition. We're going to have to work very hard in Northern Illinois, because most apartments are around $1,000 a month for a 1-bedroom.
Same here.
In just about any suburb of Chicago. I won't even talk about what Chicago has. And so I think that's going to be a very big concern for us once we get our first little group in and realize that we're going to have to transition them. That's a whole nother, the cost of living is just astronomical for single moms here.
Well, we have the housing authority at the LCMS with Nicole Ridley. Do you know her?
Right.
We should probably maybe start some sort of a coalition, some sort of group that could start looking into how do we
because let's say in 2 to 3 years this is going to be a reality. And so So,
It'd be great to start that now. And, you know, the educational aspect of it, we have such a need for healthcare workers in our area. And, you know, especially like in-home care and things like that, a lot of the girls might possibly get employment in that area. So
Yeah.
there's all kinds of opportunities. I just think that God is really going to open a lot of doors with this.
and thinking about the possibility that finding, if not the host church, another church for the daycare, because
Yes.
the whole idea of when these girls get out, they're going to need daycare to work, you know, and it's just, there's a lot more. I think that's one thing that people don't realize, that beyond the idea that we want to stop abortions, then we have to raise the babies. And then there's a lot more that goes on past that. And so,
Well, that's great discussion, and I appreciate it. And I think your group is going to have to continue to be challenged with that and talk about it. Cheryl, I want to ask you one additional question, and this may seem a little strange, and I hope I don't get on a high horse or sound like a old fuddy-duddy pastor here. You know, the secular world has a way to try to take at-risk children and scare them straight by taking them into the jail situations and showing them what it's like to exist in jail. And have you ever thought about doing any kind of scared straight settings with our young people to bring them into the home and show them the reality of premarital sex, relationships with boyfriends you think are, you know, so loving until they become pregnant, and then as you said, almost every single one of your situations, the boyfriend, the father of the baby is nowhere to be found because they don't have the concern. You know, not that these folks that are going through your home are living in terrible situations. You're providing good for them, but yet it's not a bed of roses to live in somebody else's home and be cared for. And under these programs, you know, would this be helpful for our youth groups to hear of the reality and say, there are ways to avoid this? You know, we have chastity and seeking the right relationship before marriage, and leading to marriage, not just having the latest boyfriend and getting engaged sexually. So.
Yeah, we don't have any programs like that. Deaconess does have a chapter or a module that where we talk about chastity and Christian, God's intention for sex and marriage and all of those things, but that's taught to the women. As far as youth group goes, you know, the thing is, as we're discovering right here as you talk, the tentacles are huge and they're long and there's a lot. So, you know, we've had to try to be careful of mission drift and to make sure we stay on point and we try to stay with what we do and enhance it with the right programs. I do think that's very valuable. We do go to schools and present to children and chapels and things like that, but we're mostly talking there about trying to get them to understand that that some babies don't have a home with a roof on their head, and that they have need, and that God puts us here to help each other. And so that's kind of the lesson that we send to the little ones. For youth group, I think it would be really good if somebody's going to be bringing their youth group out to the Carpentersville location to do construction or something. It would be great for that youth leader to work with us to talk about the realities of single parenthood. You know, not, like I said before, not everybody's my daughter who came out of college, makes a great living, bought a house. She's doing great. She's raising her kid. She's got her family, but that's not the reality for a lot of them. And so I think that's actually an excellent idea. There's so much work to do that you could get overwhelmed quite easily with all of the things. But I think that we could think about maybe putting together a little, not a program or a little some talking points on it that we could deal with and supporting our youth groups and our youth to better prepare.
Well, I think that's a great idea to continue our discussions on how Lutherans for Life and Redeeming Life Outreach Ministries and our church bodies, LCMS and the other Lutheran denominations, can work together to accomplish the bigger task, which is not only educating all of our youth and adults, but also sharing the gospel and leading them in the right direction for godly living. Forgiveness of sins, but also living in godly living. Yes, Ronnie.
Yeah. So one other thing occurs to me as I'm thinking about all of this. It strikes me that as these places expand, as these maternal homes expand, this could end up being a major source of call for women who are graduating deaconess programs in the seminaries, because as it is, you have women graduating and there's no call for them at the other end. So
How
what
we
I'm
know this?
wondering is whether in the long-term plan, maybe to get with Deaconess Rast at Fort Wayne and whoever her counterpart is at St. Louis, become part of the formation of deaconesses, have this be part of the deaconess formation, perhaps taking deaconess interns, during their year in the field, and placing them in some of these homes. I'm wondering what your thoughts are in that regard.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with you. We actually have talked to Concordia College. We've talked to both seminaries. We have expressed a desire to be a place where we receive deaconesses, and especially we'd love to work with them in their interns. The challenge that we have right now is there's not enough coming out to fill in. One said the St. Louis Seminary said we got different answers from different places. So what we would love to do is have an intern in our home as our residential manager for that 1 year in the house. It would provide housing for the woman. It would provide a great experience in to put her deaconal studies to work, and then she would be working under the supervision of a called deaconess as well as the pastor of the supervising church. So I agree with you. I think it's a beautiful fit for deaconal ministry. I can't think of anything better. And so that's why I am personally dedicated to that particular career path for our bright and women. And I would do whatever I can to support the intern programs and stuff. But right now, there's no one to call. We had an intern come in and work with us this year at the Southward House, and she helped us revamp some of our program work. And we're moving from paper to Google Classroom, and we're doing a lot of stuff like that. And she helped us because she's young and knows all that technical stuff. And so it was a great experience for all of us.
Well, excellent. Thank you for that update. And I think we're probably going to bring this to a close because it is getting to the 9 o'clock hour.
It's 10 o'clock here.
Yes, it is. We're all gonna turn into gremlins here. Just add water.
I'm a night owl, so it's fine.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for attending and hanging on to the questions. And I'll look forward to seeing you at the 18th for our next session.